Hello everyone, my name is Mateusz Grzeszczuk and this is a podcast about the world and international relations for them who want to know more. Hello everyone, my guest today is Lauri Mälksoo, Professor of International Law at the University of Tartu, Estonia. Good morning, nice to meet you, Professor.
Good morning, Mateusz.
Estonia's president on Thursday asked Prime Minister Kaja Kallas to form a new government after she tendered a resignation of her one-party minority cabinet. Where do government problems come from? What is the political situation like today?
Yeah, I would not even call them like deep problems. This seems to be the usual change of coalition politics in democracy. The previous coalition between the Reform Party and the Center Party got dissolved, and instead of it, a new coalition between the Reform Party, who will present the same Prime Minister Kaja Kallas, and the two other parties, one more conservative party and the other a social democratic party, has come instead. And the background for all this is that we will have ordinary parliamentary elections in March 2023. So some of those parties, they are kind of running themselves warm for the election. Everybody knows that there might be a difficult winter ahead in terms of energy costs, and some parties probably calculate that it is wiser for them in the long run to be in the opposition in the current situation. And the big question, of course, in Estonian politics is how to spend the money, and who is going to pay for it. Is it like how much money should be spent currently on the costs that need to be done currently, what costs need to be done. So the really usual questions of any politics, nothing extraordinary so far, I would say.
It's difficult time internationally, and I guess it's time to fix these issues quickly. Yeah.
Well, yes, in the sense that, and that is one reason, I guess, why Kaja Kallas never stepped back as a prime minister, not to enable the news that kind of Estonia doesn't have a proper government. Although, for example, some of our constitutional law experts also criticized her for that, because when the previous government gets dissolved, then actually, the prime minister should step back. But in that case, it only happened in the last moment, so too easy to quickly replace it with the new government of Kaja Kallas. So in this sense, also those extraordinary times were reflected in this process. But you are right. In the light of the Russian attack against Ukraine, Estonia could not afford to be without the government for a longer period.
Can these elections next year change something in the country's international politics?
I think it is quite unlikely, because I would say that we don't have a major party in Estonia that would really have a different view on for example, this Russia Ukraine war. So I don't see that being a problem. The problem really is the costs of this new situation, the costs of on Estonian citizens, with energy prices, with inflation, with things like that. How to deal with these economic problems that this causes. But no serious Estonian politician challenges our position, our country's position, condemning harshly Russia for this war of aggression against Ukraine.
Estonia and Latvia on 30 June signed a letter of intent in the NATO summit in Madrid to create a legal framework for a joint procurement of Estonian and Latvian mid-range defense systems. Do the parties have a different idea of defense policy? I understand that will change security in the region. What other defense decisions have made in Estonia?
Well, as you can see in international statistics, then along with Poland and the United States, per capita, Estonia has been one of those countries that has provided most military aid to Ukraine in facing this war of aggression. But of course, this open war of aggression has also opened questions about the proper defense of the Baltic states if they were somehow attacked from the east. And we, in that sense, a lot of lessons can be learned from this Ukraine war. We can see how Russia wages these kinds of wars, and we can also see the importance of certain weapons in dealing with an attack. Now that Estonia and Latvia would pool their resources together, it kind of makes sense because both are small states, and certain things are easier to buy and to deal with when you can pool your resources and use these things together. And then in that sense, I don't see currently any differences whatsoever in defense policies of Latvia and Estonia. Maybe in the past, for example, Estonia reached this 2% of defense expenditure as required in NATO, let's say, sooner than Latvia. Also, Latvia is only now restoring its conscript army. Estonia had conscript army all along during those years. We never dissolved it. But this does not affect the decision to buy those weapons together that you mentioned. They are needed anyway for deterrence and, if necessary, for effective or more effective defense of the two nations in case of a foreign attack.
But in Estonia, there's a discussion on how much help should be given to Ukraine. What else does Estonia have to offer?
Well, it's also that indeed, not all nations can offer the same thing. For example, Estonia is only now in the process of buying itself from the United States the HIMARS weapon system that apparently Ukraine is currently using against the attack. So as we don't have those weapons ourselves, we couldn't have given them to a third party either. So with weapons, it's not only what your political will is, but I think it also depends on what anybody has. What have you got? And there has probably also been this sensitivity in equipping the Baltic states with heavy weapons, knowing the proximity of Russia, the history of NATO East enlargement, that only now we see a kind of change of attitude, also a certain seriousness, understanding that perhaps when the Baltic states were raising those questions about what Russia can do, maybe they, along with Poland, of course, probably they were not so wrong after all.
So can we see Ukrainian refugees on the streets of Estonia?
Probably less. I mean, I was maybe a month ago in Warsaw, and I think they are more visible on your streets, and I think objectively there are more of them in Poland, but we can see Ukrainian flags in many places. So it's really a part of the cityscape while being in Estonia currently. I must say I haven't walked around on the streets with the eye of how many Ukrainian refugees can I see. Also don't like to think about my own biases, to think about who might be a refugee and who not. But well, let's say sometimes in some places in Tallinn, one can hear Ukrainian language more than one was used to, or perhaps also Russian with some Ukrainian style and the accent. So this is definitely more than last year.
In Poland, each of my friends took someone home, so it's very visible. Yeah, Professor, thank you very much for your knowledge, for meeting my guest, Lauri Mälksoo, University of Tartu, Estonia. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a nice day.